Every morning when I wake up, before the noise of the world starts creeping in, I remind myself of a few simple truths. Life is loud, it's busy, it's full of distractions, and if you're not careful, you'll start living by what other people tell you instead of what you tell yourself. See, I wasn't born with success written across my forehead. I wasn't the most talented, the most confident, or the most certain. But I learned something early: what you tell yourself every day shapes the life you live. There were times when I doubted myself, times when I thought maybe I wasn't enough. But I had to learn to replace doubt with belief, fear with courage, and laziness with discipline. I had to speak life over myself before the world ever agreed with me. And that's what I want to share with you today. 9 things, simple but powerful things, you need to tell yourself every single day if you want to rise above the life you were created to live. I've learned in my life that the first thing I have to do every single day is believe in your purpose before the world ever believes in you. I didn't come from a family of Hollywood stars. I didn't grow up in a neighborhood where people looked at you and said, "You're going to be famous one day." I came from humble beginnings, a preacher's son from Mount Vernon, New York. And when you grow up in a place like that, sometimes the world doesn't hand you permission to dream. You don't always hear people telling you that you can make it, that you can go far, that you can become something greater. But I had to learn to tell myself. Before anyone else clapped for me, I had to clap for myself. Before the critics said I was good, I had to look in the mirror and say, "You are enough. You've got something inside of you that matters." Because if you wait for the world to validate your purpose, you'll be waiting your whole life. There are too many doubters, too many voices ready to tell you what you can't do, too many distractions to keep you small. You have to wake up every morning and speak life into yourself, even when the evidence doesn't line up yet. I remember when I first thought about becoming an actor, it wasn't glamorous. I didn't have a spotlight on me. I wasn't walking into rooms where people said, "This is the guy." In fact, I faced rejection. I faced moments when I questioned if I even belonged. But in those moments, I did lean on something deeper than applause, deeper than approval. I had to believe that I was created for a reason, and that reason didn't depend on whether someone else could see it or not. Purpose is a seed planted inside of you. Other people might not see it growing. They might look at you and say you're wasting your time or you're chasing something impossible. But the truth is, they don't have to see it. It's not their seed. It's yours. When you water it with belief, when you feed it with discipline, when you protect it from the weeds of negativity, it grows. And one day the world sees the fruit. But until that day comes, you have to be the one who knows it's real. I tell young people all the time, the world will doubt you, but don't you dare doubt yourself. When I was starting out, I didn't know where the road would take me. I didn't know if I'd ever stand on a stage with an Oscar in my hand or hear people call me one of the greats. All I knew was that there was something in me that refused to quit. Something that told me, "Denzel, you've got to keep going." That voice was louder than the rejections, louder than the silence, louder than the doubts. See, when you believe in your purpose before the world believes in you, you don't let the applause define you, and you don't let the critics destroy you. You walk steady. You keep your eyes on the road ahead, not the noise on the sidelines. And that's what carried me through. That's what carried me from a man with nothing but a dream to a man who now stands before you saying it can be done. Not because I'm special, but because I believed when no one else did. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, don't just roll out of bed and check your phone. Don't just scroll through other people's lives and measure your worth against theirs. Look in the mirror and remind yourself, I matter. My life has meaning. My purpose is real. You might not see the results yet, but trust me, purpose is planted long before it's visible. The world may laugh at you, ignore you, or doubt you, but one day that same world will look back and wonder how you did it. And you'll know the truth. You believed first. I learned a long time ago that talent will only get you so far. See, talent is a gift, but discipline is a choice. And every day you wake up, you have to make that choice again and again. People look at me now and they see the movies, the awards, the recognition, and they think it was all talent. They think it was easy. But I'll tell you the truth. It wasn't. There were days I didn't get the part. Days when the phone didn't ring. Days when I questioned if I was even on the right path. Talent didn't carry me through those moments. Hard work did. Dedication did. Consistency did. When I was a young actor starting out, I quickly realized I wasn't the only talented one in the room. There were hundreds of others just as good, maybe better. But I asked myself, what will set me apart? And the answer was simple. I was willing to do the work. I was willing to study when others wanted to party. I was willing to rehearse the same line 100 times until it became second nature. I was willing to take small parts, to keep sharpening my craft, to stay ready even when no opportunity seemed to be in sight. Because here's the truth. Opportunity favors the prepared. It's not always about who's the most gifted. It's about who refuses to quit. I've seen it in every part of life. On the stage, on the screen, in the streets. People with less talent but more hunger, more discipline, more willingness to grind, they rise. And people who think their gift alone will carry them, that's why I tell myself every day, do the work. Outwork yesterday. Push yourself to give a little more, learn a little more, become a little stronger. Because the small steps you take daily, they add up to big victories over time. You've got to understand something. Discipline is not glamorous. Nobody claps for you when you're up late studying, when you're practicing alone, when you're grinding in silence. There's no applause in the struggle, but there's reward in the persistence. Every late night, every early morning, every moment I chose to stay focused when I could have been distracted, it was building me. It was preparing me. And when the big opportunity finally came, I wasn't lucky. I was ready. I remember times when I was so tired I didn't want to keep going. Times when I thought maybe I should take the easy road. But something inside me kept saying, don't stop now. Keep your head down and keep working. That's the voice you've got to listen to. Not the voice of doubt, not the voice of laziness, not the voice that tells you it's okay to give half effort. No, you've got to listen to that inner drive that demands more from you. And here's the thing, you can't fake discipline. You can fake talent for a little while. You can talk your way into a room. But discipline shows when the lights are on. Discipline shows in the results. And that's what people see when they look at me now. They don't see the hours, the sweat, the rejection, the grind, but they see the outcome of it. I tell young people all the time, don't fall in love with the dream, fall in love with the process. Because the process is where the growth happens. The process is where the foundation is built. The dream is just the fruit, but the process, that's the soil, that's the watering, that's the patience, that's the work that makes the fruit possible. And if you fall in love with the process, success won't surprise you. It'll meet you right where you are. So every day, I remind myself, talent is nothing without effort. Talent is a car with no fuel. Discipline is the fuel. Discipline is the engine. Discipline is what carries you forward when the road gets long. And trust me, The road will get long. There will be days when you want to stop, when you wonder if it's worth it, when nobody else believes in you. But that's when you dig in deeper. That's when you remind yourself why you started. That's when you keep pressing forward. I'm not the most talented. I'm not the smartest, but I will work. I will prepare. I will sacrifice. And that's why I am here. That's why I've been blessed with opportunities. Because when talent was sleeping, I was working. When talent was relaxing, I was pushing. When talent was doubting, I was believing. And if you want to reach your full potential, you've got to do the same. Outwork yesterday. Give more today. Don't rely on what you've been given. Build on it with what you choose to give. That's the secret. That's the truth. Talent will open the door, but hard work will keep you inside the room. When I tell you fail big, I'm not saying that just to sound good. I'm saying it because that's the story of my life. When I was young, I didn't know exactly who I was or what I wanted to be. I tried different paths. I stumbled. I got rejected more times than I can count. There were moments I walked into auditions and gave everything I had, only to be told I wasn't right or that I wasn't good enough. Do you know how that feels? To pour your heart into something and still be turned away. But here's the truth. Those rejections, those so-called failures, they shaped me. They built the fire inside me to keep going. They taught me lessons success never could. That's why I say, if you're going to fail, fail big. Don't tiptoe through life hoping to avoid mistakes. Take the leap, fall down if you must, but fall forward. At least that way, every time you hit the ground, you're still a step closer to where you're supposed to be. I remember standing in places where I thought I had blown it, where I felt like the door was permanently closed. But what I couldn't see at the time was that every closed door was pushing me toward the right one. Every failure was preparing me for the role, the opportunity, the purpose that was meant for me. You see, failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. Without failure, there is no growth. Without risk, there is no reward. Too many people are so afraid to fall that they never climb. They stay safe. They stay comfortable, and then wonder why they're not living their dream. I never wanted to live that way. I wanted to live bold. I wanted to dream bigger than my fears, and I wanted to risk looking foolish if it meant I was reaching for something greater. There's a power in failure because it strips away pride. It humbles you. It forces you to look in the mirror and ask yourself how bad you really want it. When I failed, I had to decide, was I going to quit? Or was I going to get up and try again? And let me tell you something, every single time I chose to get back up, I came back stronger. I came back sharper. I came back hungrier. That's the gift of failing big. It doesn't leave you the same. It builds resilience that can't be taught in a classroom or read in a book. You only learn it by falling flat and choosing to rise. So when I say fail big, I mean set goals that scare you. Go after dreams so wild that people laugh when you speak them out loud. Don't play it safe, because safe never changed the world. Safe never made history. Safe never built legacies. I didn't become the man I am today by staying in comfort zones. I became who I am because I was willing to risk falling on my face for something that mattered. And yes, I failed. I failed plenty. But those failures were the stepping stones to every success I've had. I'll tell you this too. Success without failure is shallow. It doesn't have depth. It doesn't have meaning. When you've tasted defeat, when you've felt the weight of doors slammed in your face, and then you finally break through, that success is sweeter. It's richer. It's not handed to you. It's carved out of struggle, persistence, and faith. That's why I never run from failure. I embrace it. Because every time I fall, I trust that God is still guiding me. I trust that even in my mistakes, He is molding me into the person I need to be. So don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to take that shot, to step into the unknown, to chase the dream that feels too big. The world may say you're crazy. People may not believe in you, but none of that matters. What matters is that you don't give up. What matters is that you keep falling forward, learning, growing, and becoming. Every failure you face is proof that you're in the game, proof that you're reaching beyond the limits that hold most people back. And when you finally succeed, and you will, you'll look back and realize that every stumble, every rejection, every so-called failure was necessary. It wasn't wasted. It was the path that carried you to greatness. That's why I'll keep saying it, fail big. Because if you never fail, it means you never tried. And I'd rather live a life full of failures that taught me, shaped me, and pushed me forward than lives safe and never know what could have been. When I look back over my life, I know without a shadow of a doubt that the only reason I am here, the only reason I've been able to stand where I stand, is because I learned early to put God first. That's not just a line I say to sound good. That's not just something I bring up at award shows or when people are watching. That's the foundation of everything I've built my life on. I remember when I was a young man, broke, uncertain, trying to figure out which direction I was supposed to take. I had moments when I didn't know if I was going to make it, when I felt invisible, when failure seemed to be the only thing waiting for me. But it was in those quiet moments, when I had nothing to lean on, that I discovered prayer, I discovered faith, and I discovered that the moment I surrendered my path to God, doors started opening that I could have never forced open on my own. See, people sometimes look at success and think it's all about talent, hard work, or connections. And yes, those things matter, but let me tell you something. Without God, all of that is empty. I've seen people with all the money in the world, with all the fame, with all the applause, and still they were lost, broken, unhappy. Because success without God is nothing but an illusion. I had to remind myself every day, God, whatever I do, I want it to be pleasing to you. Whatever I accomplish, let it be by your will, not mine. And when I live like that, when I start each day with gratitude, with humility, with the understanding that I didn't wake myself up this morning, that breath was given to me, then everything changes. I can tell you stories of times when I thought a certain role was mine, when I thought an opportunity was secured, and it slipped away. At first, I was angry. I was disappointed. I questioned myself. But later, I realized it wasn't rejection. It was protection. God was moving me away from something that wasn't meant for me, so He could guide me towards something greater. That lesson alone has saved me from bitterness, from chasing the wrong things, from thinking I have to control everything. I had to learn how to trust His timing, because God is never late, but He's never early either. He shows up right when you need Him. When I stand on a stage, when I speak to young people, when I try to encourage others, I always say, put God first in everything you do, not some things. Not only when it's easy, not only when you're desperate, but in everything, put Him first when you're successful, so you don't let pride take over. Put Him first when you fail, so you don't let despair crush you. Put Him first when you're confused, because His wisdom is greater than your own. Every day, I wake up and remind myself I'm not here because I'm so great. I'm here because God allowed it. And if He allowed it, then I have a responsibility to use it for more than myself. I don't want anyone to think that putting God first means your life will be without problems. No, you'll still fall. You'll still struggle. You'll still face storms. But the difference is, you won't be fighting alone. You'll know that even in the middle of the storm, There's a hand holding you steady. I can tell you personally, I've faced battles I didn't have the strength for. I've had nights where the weight of the world sat on my chest, but it was my faith, my prayer, my trust in God that carried me when nothing else could. That's why I'm standing here today, not because of me, but because of Him. Every day I remind myself to stay grateful. Grateful for the breath in my lungs, grateful for the people around me, grateful even for the struggles, because they push me closer to God. Gratitude changes your whole outlook. When you stop focusing on what you don't have and you start thanking God for what you do have, suddenly life looks different. Suddenly what seems small becomes a blessing. Suddenly what felt like an obstacle becomes a lesson. That shift keeps me humble. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me focused. So when I tell you to put God first in everything you do, I'm not giving you a cliche. I'm giving you the truth that carried me from where I was to where I am. I'm telling you the one thing that has never failed me, the one thing that has never left me, the one thing that has never let me down. And every day, when I open my eyes, before I chase success, before I chase applause, before I chase anything this world can offer, I remind myself without God, I am nothing. With Him, I have everything. I've learned over the years that success by itself is empty if it doesn't lift somebody else. You can chase the money, the cars, the houses, the applause, the red carpets. But when the lights go off and the cameras stop rolling, none of that will fill you up. What really matters is how many people you've touched, how many lives you've made better, how many doors you've opened for the next person coming behind you. I had to remind myself every single day, I am here to serve, not just to shine. When I was a young man trying to figure out my place in the world, I didn't know what was ahead of me. I wasn't sure I was going to be an actor. I wasn't even sure what direction my life was going. But what I did know was that I had been given something. And whatever that something was, it wasn't just for me. If all you do with your gifts is use them to build yourself up, then those gifts are wasted. I had to learn that the measure of a man is not in how much he gives. I think about my mother. She used to tell me, son, you may make it big one day, but don't you forget who helped you get there. She would remind me that there were people praying for me, people sacrificing for me, people paving the way so that I could walk through doors they never had the chance to. That's not something you ever pay back by yourself, because the truth is you can't. What you can do is pay it forward. You can turn around, extend your hand, and pull someone else through. That became a part of my daily reminder. Before I step on a stage, before I walk on a set, before I stand at a podium, I ask myself, who is this for? Who can this reach? Who might be inspired, uplifted, encouraged if I do this with all my heart? Because if it's just for me, then it's too small. The dream has to be bigger than your name. The impact has to outlive your time on this earth. I've had the blessing of awards, recognition, success beyond what that little boy from Mount Vernon could have ever imagined. But do you know what moments mean the most to me? It's not the trophies on a shelf. It's the letter from a young man in prison saying, my story gave him hope. It's the mother who tells me her son decided to stay in school after hearing something I said. It's the student who couldn't afford tuition but got a scholarship because someone saw potential in him and I was able to help. That's the kind of return you can't measure in dollars. That's the kind of success that actually lasts. Every day, I remind myself that service is not always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's about showing up with humility, speaking a kind word, listening when someone needs to be heard. Sometimes it's about using your influence to create space for others to shine. I think one of the greatest things you can do in this life is to make sure your success doesn't end with you. Build a bridge, not a wall. Open doors, don't close them. Leave a path so that somebody else who might be struggling, who might be doubting, can see that it's possible for them too. And I'll tell you something, when you live a life of service, you'll find that you're the one who's blessed the most. It changes your heart. It changes your perspective. You stop worrying so much about what you don't have and start appreciating what you do. You stop living only for yourself and start seeing the bigger picture. That's peace. That's legacy. So yes, I remind myself every single day, serve others. Use what you have to give, not just to get. Because when I leave this earth, I don't want people to only remember the movies I made or the awards I won. I want them to say I lived a life that mattered, a life that gave more than it took. And that's something you don't just say once. You tell it to yourself every day until it becomes the way you live.